I want to thank all of the other candidates in this election.
Naheed Nenshi. He took Calgary's City Hall in a closely contested mayoral race in 2010 against longtime councillor Rick McIver and television personality Barb Higgins. Nenshi used social media and a well-organized ground campaign to beat out his opponents, but he also told Calgarians that he was a fiscal conservative. Anyone in Calgary who's been paying attention knows that's not true. Naheed Nenshi is not, nor ever was, a fiscal conservative. Since he's been mayor, Calgary's property taxes have risen consistently year after year, above and beyond the normal rate of inflation. For most of Calgary's tax increases since 2010, Nenshi has voted yes. Only on the rare occasion, which always seems to coincide with an election, has Nenshi criticized tax increases or voted against them. Since he's been mayor, Nenshi has had an arrogant, one-sided, and astonishingly hypocritical leadership style. From charging donors $5,000 for exclusive access and the right to be graced with his godlike presence, to irresponsibly defaming a private citizen and then expecting everyone else to pay his legal bills, Naheed Nenshi is a real class act. Nenshi's childish temper tantrums, his lack of self-control, and his inability to take criticism or show any respect makes him a lot like another politician who doesn't get off the hook as often or as easily as Mr. Nenshi. The truth is, Naheed Nenshi is not a well-rounded, smart, or thick-skinned warrior. He's an embarrassment. It may have taken Calgarians a while to notice what a hypocrite and loose cannon their mayor really is, but they're starting to notice now. As the mainstream media continues to treat Naheed Nenshi like a saint, voters aren't buying it anymore, and they have good reasons not to. Let's start with Naheed Nenshi's most recent fail. In June, the vice president of an architecture company tried to organize an event in which participants would pay up to $5,000 to have a 2-hour lunch with the mayor. When other elected politicians do this, it's called cash for access. But of course, being the petulant hypocrite that he is, Nenshi called any such claims absolutely ridiculous and baseless, because on planet Nenshi, anything goes unless otherwise stated by the supreme and righteous Lord of all things himself. On planet Nenshi, paying $5,000 to have the time with an elected official who doesn't even listen to his own citizens is perfectly fine and sends the right message. In November of 2013, just after Nenshi sailed to victory under a 37% voter turnout, the thin-skinned hypocrite was sued by a prominent homebuilder for defamation. The case was settled out of court 2 years later with Nenshi retracting and apologizing, as well as acknowledging that the homebuilder he accused of breaking election laws did not actually break any election laws. Despite not going to trial, the Purple People Eater raked up $300,000 worth of legal bills. Those legal bills were then covered by the city of Calgary under the promise that it would be paid back by Nenshi. But instead, a committee was established to raise the funds and issue donors tax receipts. This means that Naheed Nenshi took zero responsibility or accountability for his own legal expenses. Instead, he chose to freeload off his rich donor friends. To make Nenshi look even worse, a lot of the money raised came from outside of Calgary. Speaking of the 2013 civic election, Nenshi's only real challenger, the late John Lord, received more than 20% of the popular vote. He achieved this with virtually no campaign budget or ground force. Without any money, John Lord managed to win more than 56,000 votes. With a higher turnout and a real campaign, there's no telling what Lord could have achieved. Throughout his career as mayor, Calgarians have sometimes seemed willfully blind to Nenshi's outrageous hypocrisy. For instance, dating back to the Occupy Wall Street protests, Nenshi allowed protesters to illegally squat all around Calgary and then defended the $100,000 price tag for cleaning up after them. The problem with all of this is that Nenshi refused to give a Christian street group the same respect. A sometimes infamous street preacher was issued hundreds worth of bylaw tickets and removed from City Hall for staging a prayer session. So to sum it up, for Nenshi and city officials, trashing Olympic Park is totally fine. Praying at a City Hall? Not fine.
Not fine.
We can't forget about the time Nenshi called in a psychologist to deal with the dysfunction inside of City Hall. Remember that? Even then, Nenshi blamed the tensions in City Council on everyone else, not himself and his own disrespect for his colleagues. Because, you know, Nenshi never says or does anything that could be viewed as disrespectful to anyone.
So, Uber, there's no polite way of saying this, have a brilliant business model and are dicks. Now we're getting somewhere. Team Ubers are dicks. And are dicks.
Oh yeah, remember that one time Nenshi claimed that the city of Calgary hired criminals to test Uber's policies? That may or may not have anything to do with Nenshi's long-standing vendetta against Uber and his efforts to keep it out of Calgary to protect the city's taxi monopoly. Taxi shortages are fine. Private ride-sharing, not fine.
Not fine.
If you're not fully convinced of Nenshi's shameless hypocrisy, how about the time he endorsed kicking low-income residents out of a trailer park, citing too much maintenance costs, while the city bailed out a struggling public golf course that needed a reported $7 million worth of repairs and maintenance? Or how about the time Nenshi complained about an old hotel being turned into an affordable housing complex or drop-in center? This is Naheed Nenshi's version of Calgary. Spectators should be amazed at how a politician who talks, tweets, and acts like Donald Trump has been mayor of Calgary longer than Donald Trump has been president. We should be amazed at how Nenshi has managed to get away with all of the things Donald Trump has been in hot water for. How could this be? Is it the media? Did they report lightly on Nenshi's arrogant, hot-headed antics? Or is it the voters? Are they okay with their mayor's incessant petulance and childish behavior? Or have they just been dissatisfied with the choices? Whatever the answer may be, 2017 offers another chance. A chance for Calgarians to make a new choice. One that takes the city toward a future of civility, lower taxes, and less hypocrisy. But first, someone strong and capable might need to challenge the purple peacock and his obnoxious leadership style. If voters aren't offered a real, strong choice, Calgary might be stuck with Nenshi for the next 12 years. Imagine that. No, really. Imagine it.